Thank you, Nicole, for the great introduction. Really, after 4 years, it gives me immense pleasure to be able to say to all of you, welcome to the 72nd Biennial Convention of the National Association of Letter Carriers. When we gathered in Michigan, we were discussing plans for the 2019 round of collective bargaining, right? And ways to overcome the congressional gridlock and the hostility of the Trump administration, which was blocking our legislative agenda, not to mention all the attacks. So securing a new contract was going to be delayed and complicated by the arrival of the pandemic in early 2020. While breaking the gridlock and defeating a belligerent administration would take not one, but 2 national elections. And I'll remember these years for the turmoil we faced as a country, which included not only the pandemic, but also the painful and incomplete racial reckoning prompted by the murder of George Floyd in 2019, and the chaos and division surrounding the 2020 election, which was capped by the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Through it all, the NALC rose to the occasion to serve our members and to preserve our unity. Despite the dire challenges facing this country, we racked up several major victories. Despite the unavoidable delays caused by the COVID crisis and the need to initiate an interest arbitration after an eventual impasse, we negotiated and you ratified a 44-month contract with the Postal Service that achieved or advanced many of our key objectives, including better pay and benefits for CCAs and the automatic conversion to career status after no more than 24 months, 3 general increases, 7 cost of living adjustments, a new Step P for the career pay scale, protections against contracting and layoffs, and a series of MOUs to address route adjustments, workplace culture, and other urgent matters facing our craft. We successfully resisted efforts by the Trump administration to promote privatization and to repeal our collective bargaining rights, as was proposed by the 2018 White House task force under President Trump on the U.S. postal system. In concert with our allies in the AFL-CIO, we used our letter carrier political fund to help elect a pro-letter carrier and a pro-Postal Service majority in Washington. First, in the House of Representatives in November 2018, and then in the Senate and in the White House in 2020. And these electoral successes paid off spectacularly for letter carriers with the passage and the enactment of urgently needed and long fought for postal reform legislation. The new law repealed one negative mandate, the pre-funding of retiree health benefits, and implemented a positive one, making the requirement of at least 6-day delivery permanent part of the law. That was you guys, 12 years. We got postal reform. Give yourselves a hand. You did great. And then in the summer and the fall of 2020, NALC, well, and the other postal unions, worked together to calm the growing public fear that the Postal Service would be unable to process and deliver election mail in a timely manner. Remember that? Due to the staffing shortages caused by the pandemic and other long evident management failures. And as election boards shifted to vote-at-home options in the interest of public health, we secured a seat at the table of the Postal Service's National Election Task Force, actually demanded it, and worked tirelessly to make sure every mail ballot was delivered on time. And our efforts, your efforts, were extraordinarily successful, as 98% of ballots were delivered on time, and the percentage of ballots cast by mail went from 21% in 2016 to 46% in 2020. That's on you. And at the same time, we, all of us, we worked around the clock in 2020 and in 2021 to protect the health and safety of letter carriers and other postal employees from the dangers of the COVID-19 virus. We fought alongside the other unions to secure supplies of personal protective equipment, to develop new safe work protocols, to restructure workplaces and work schedules to accommodate social distancing, and we negotiated a variety of COVID leave policies. And while we mourn the 109 active and retired city letter carriers who died due to COVID-19, we know that our actions prevented thousands of hospitalizations and an untold number of deaths. We successfully pressured the Postal Regulatory Commission, the PRC, to change the price-setting system for letter mail and flats that were established by the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act in 2006. In December 2020, after a 4-year delay, the PRC issued its final ruling on the rate-setting system. It adopted a more favorable price cap, allowing increases in rates greater than the Consumer Price Index that should improve the Postal Service's financial condition in the years to come. That wasn't on the PMG. That's what we advocated for years, and we got that accomplished. And all these victories were made possible by the incredible solidarity, unity, and strength of the NALC membership, and by the work of thousands of activists at all levels of our union. And we should all take pride in this progress. So I guess this is what the past 4 years have taught us. When we stay united and strong, NALC can achieve its goals no matter how difficult the circumstances. Remember that, brothers and sisters, as we focus on the next 2 years and the future of our union. One of my great heroes in life was the late, great Yogi Berra of the 28-time world champion New York Yankees. All right, 27. I was counting this year. Now, Yogi was as famous for his often wacky quips, as they were referred to, as he was for his Hall of Fame baseball career. And he once remarked that it's hard to make predictions, especially about the future. And I agree with Yogi. But nevertheless, this week we got to look ahead, and we got to work to shape the future. On the immediate horizon are the 2022 midterm elections and the 2023 round of collective bargaining. Obviously, those will be huge topics this week. We will, of course, discuss many resolutions, and we're going to set the union's policy on these matters during our general sessions. But we're also going to ask you to delve deeper throughout the week. We're also going to begin to address some longer-term challenges, those that the NALC's present and future leaders are sure to face far beyond the next 2 years. Let's start with the DFA plan. Postmaster General Louis DeJoy unveiled his 10-year strategic plan in the spring of 2021. Something we never got from a post office, a strategic plan. Nice. He told the National Postal Forum in May, "I was not hired and did not come here to manage the Postal Service. I was hired to transform it." That was good to hear. If nothing else, the DFA plan is bold. It combines a massive reorganization of the managerial structure of the Postal Service with proposed legislative and administrative actions and a strategy to fundamentally restructure the operations of the Postal Service. It features ambitious goals to both invest in the Postal Service's networks and dramatically increase the agency's revenues by growing its competitive product streams. That's new. And it includes all the usual rhetoric, of course, about becoming a wonderful place to work. But like I said, when this plan was first unveiled at that time, there was much to like in it. Unlike every PMG since 1943, so I've had all of them, DeJoy has embraced 6-day delivery as an organizational imperative. It's a first. Instead of shrinking to survive, as his immediate predecessors supported and tried, he has an actual growth strategy with the USPS Connect shipping initiatives. This means adding capacity instead of focusing exclusively on downsizing, like we've seen from his predecessors. But there's also things in the plan that don't make sense. The service standard changes, for example, purposely slowing the delivery of regional and cross-country mail. In our opinion, they're not worth the paltry savings that they appear to generate on paper, okay? We said as much in our comments to the PRC on this particular matter. But we're only 1 year into his plan, and it's kind of far too early to pass judgment, though there's some evidence that the quality of service has been somewhat improved in some areas after 2 years of turmoil caused by the pandemic, and of course, a year or so or more of, again, managerial reshuffling and dysfunction. But the plan's potential impact on letter carriers is only now coming into view. And here, it's worth quoting at length what DeJoy said at the National Postal Forum in May about the planned changes in the Postal Service's delivery operations. He said, and I quote, no, I'm not using his voice, okay. He said, and I quote, "Let's talk delivery operations. With almost 19,000 locations around the country, we can have as many as 40 locations within a 10-mile radius. This requires significant sorting of product at our plants, numerous underutilized truckloads, and diminishes the magnificence of our biggest competitive advantage, our mail carrier route structure. These delivery units are in disrepair. They have poor employee amenities and have not accommodated our package growth and operate to a dated and costly strategy. He cleaned that up in this quote. In our meeting, he said, "We work in shitholes." Okay. To continue on with the quote, dramatic change is needed, and dramatic change is what we are pursuing. We will be aggregating much of our carrier base into sort and delivery centers with adequate space, docks, conveyors, mail, and material handling equipment to operate more efficiently and provide greater reach. We will place large carrier operations inside our mail processing plants, dramatically reducing transportation, reducing mail handlings, increasing reliability, and decreasing time to delivery. That means a lot more routes in English. We will have the greatest reach and be the most reliable and affordable. These changes to both our national network and our local operations will take years to accomplish, but each plant or delivery unit that we tackle will provide immediate system-wide benefits. We simply just cannot do this fast enough. This will transform the Postal Service, and I wish I could say it is ingenious. It is not. It is obvious. If you were building a postal service from scratch today, this is what you would do. The genius is unwinding what we are doing today and to prepare for the future, unquote. So, as with many Postal Service initiatives, and we've had many meetings and we'll continue to have many meetings at many levels with regard to his plans moving forward, we're going to reserve judgment until we know more. But in response to this plan, my message to the PMG has been clear and quite simple. None of this will work unless the NALC has a seat at the table before and during this transformation. The Postal Service needs the interest of letter carriers to be the principal concern in the design of any new sort and delivery centers. And that means our union has to be involved up front as partners in this transformation, not just be informed and tolerated, not consulted after key decisions are made. We're going to need to have a partnership of equals, as we did in the campaign for postal reform. That's why we got postal reform. Otherwise, Lewis, your plan will not work. As for the success of the overall DFA plan, as it pertains to transportation, processing, retail services, and delivery, I've delivered another simple message. The Postal Service cannot succeed, Lewis, unless it solves its chronic staffing problems first. These problems were certainly made worse by the pandemic and the labor market conditions that resulted from the so-called Great Resignation. But these problems predated the pandemic. The negative effects of staffing shortages have been enormous. I'm telling you this. The outrageous fact that routes in some areas consistently go undelivered. In thousands of delivery units, the Postal Service is routinely violating work hour limits in our contract, whether it's for the ODL, the non-ODL, PTFs, CCAs. And third, CCA retention rates continue to decline. and the chronic staffing shortages have even begun to adversely affect the Postal Service's ability to retain career letter carriers. So here's the bottom line. Unless management solves these problems, the DFA plan, for all it's good, will fail. And as we approach collective bargaining negotiations, formally beginning in February of 2023, it is clear that the Postal Service cannot properly staff the city letter carrier craft, and therefore cannot deliver every route every day or comply with the national agreement with the current starting pay and a non-career workforce. Meanwhile, as we prepare for the next collective bargaining session, collective bargaining also provides us, in between negotiations, with a means to address issues such as our staffing problems. So even as we're filing grievances to compensate letter carriers for work hour limit and other Article 8 violations, we're also engaging management to address staffing issues with additional career conversions and the direct hiring of career employees rather than non-career employees. Just this past week, I think Executive Vice President Renfro just negotiated another 40 or 50 such sites to add to that list. Our early experience with the City Delivery and Workplace Improvement Task Force, which was created with the 2019 contract, is really showing good promise. We've rolled out pilot programs to improve the new employee experience that aim to treat newly hired employees like human beings and to provide mentors. And the program appears to be improving retention rates where we have the right staffing. So here's a bold idea that we can add to the DFA plan. Let's work to spread those more humane practices to all employees, not just new employees. So that too will be on the table for the next round of contract talks, along with the only time-tested solution to the Postal Service's chronic staffing woes: moving to an all-career workforce with competitive starting wages.